Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino and the Lake Charles Gumbo Gators. Tommy Chrisan joining us from Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, rocking his Bad Rouge Rougarou shirt. I'm in an undisclosed location, presented by Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. I think we got it all out. All right, TK. Obviously the story of the week is still reaction on Brian Kelly's firing, Frank Wilson in as the interim head coach. And like all interim head coach situations, people are getting excited about him. They think he could be the right fit. Could he possibly retain the job? All these things are being talked about. We'll get into that whole thing. And plus, all the skeletons are coming out of the closet on Brian Kelly. The New Orleans Saints going with a new quarterback, at least this week, find themselves still a massive dog on the road against the Rams on Sunday. The Pelicans have lost their first three games. They are a big dog tonight at the Denver Nuggets. World Series tied 2 games apiece. We had an 18 inning, just unbelievable game on Monday night. One of the greatest games ever played. Some say the greatest postseason game ever played. We'll get into talking about Otani, who clearly is the greatest baseball player I think ever to play. And I know that's people. Well, what about Babe Ruth? Barry Bonds. Slow your horses. Babe Ruth was a pitcher, then a hitter. Barry Bonds was a hitter. Otani's both. It's incredible. But he did get the loss last night on the mound, although he pitched well. And I don't know why they let him go out in the seventh. I don't know why they let him face more than the leadoff batter once he got on with a hit in the seventh. Just terrible, I thought, by the Dodgers to let him give up 4 runs when he should have only given up 2 or 3 at the most. Um, uh, the Also talking about the Pels, shocker, Zion Williamson didn't play game 3 with a bone bruise, questionable for tonight. All right, let's go back to LSU football, Tommy. We talked on Monday morning. We were still kind of digesting the Brian Kelly firing on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. Um, Obviously, since then, it has been the pile-on effect. Everybody coming out of the woodwork with all these stories talking about Brian Kelly and a negative effect. We saw Brian Kelly yesterday. Looked like he had his final meal at Superior Grill, and then he got on a plane, private plane, with his wife, packed a few boxes, and we're probably headed to Florida. Most likely, they go to Naples a lot. But just your reaction in general to what's transpired over the last 48, 72 hours with Brian Kelly and Frank Wilson.
Well, yeah, all the things, unfortunately, we've seen over the years in Baton Rouge when there's been a coach change or a firing, because this is the third straight coach to be fired at LSU. And, he's an easy target. And like you said, some skeletons have jumped out of the closet. And some of them were there before, some of them not. And, I just think it was the right move. I don't think that he would have been able to turn this around or compete for an SEC title or get in that 12-team playoff. I don't think he'd have been able to do that. And I think it was the right move, because what's important here is recruiting / portal / NIL, and LSU's got to get out in front of that. No question about that. Frank Wilson, a two-time head coach, although he didn't have a lot of success as a head coach at Texas San Antonio and at McNeese in Lake Charles. But he said all the right things in the press conference, and I think there'll be a little juice in the locker room and on the practice field. They don't play this week. They got a little time to figure a few things out, make a few changes, whatever those changes might be, big changes, small changes, and get ready to go play at Alabama, where they're going to be a double-digit underdog, I think. I haven't seen a line yet, but, I
But
think
Tommy, hang on. I did see a line 5.5 right now. Alabama is a 5.5 point favorite.
I'd pay off the mortgage with that if I was most people. But anyway, so it'll remain to see how this team responds. How do they react? And how do they take the field against Bama? A lot of former players, saying stuff like, "Hey, this team didn't have that fire, didn't have that drive, that determination, didn't have that giddy up in their step going on and off the field." These are people who've been there, done that, and people who are very successful at LSU and on successful teams. So, I think I haven't heard or read anything that I went, "Oh my God, I can't believe I read that or I heard that." All of it is kind of part of it. I've got friends that hadn't called me in a year or so are calling me like, okay, what's the latest? Who they gonna hire? I don't know who they're gonna hire. Nobody knows who they're gonna hire at this point, I don't think. So you got to let it use the old Ryan Rance term. You got to let it play out. Okay, let it play out and see if you can't, begin to turn the program back in the right direction.
Um, First off, on all the stuff that's come out on Brian Kelly, now it was reported by Jacques Doucet of WAFB that the buyout was from a reliable source. For Jacques to go on Twitter and social media and to say it was a $27 million buyout, they threatened to exercise morality clause in his contract, which helped them negotiate the price down from 54 to 27. So LSU, in essence, saved $27 million because they were willing to play hardball on morality clause. What is the morality clause? Well, there's an alleged affair that that happened. If you remember, Brian Kelly and his wife filed for divorce a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was, and then they withdrew the withdrawal from the courts a couple days later, and reconciled. So there's a morality clause. I'm not going to get into the who, what, when, but it's one of the worst kept secrets, in Baton Rouge. Then the Greg Brooks situation that happened. The Greg Brooks situation, with the lawsuit, the former safety transfer from Arkansas who has, in essence, brain damage. And that lawsuit going on and how it was handled, not just by Brian Kelly, but potentially the doctors and the trainers and everything. But Brian Kelly's the head of that system, and so they leverage those things and maybe some others into, hey, 27 million, go away, okay, and so they save some money on that. Remember when Coach O got 15 million lump sum or whatever it was, something around that? We were like, oh my God, this is 27, and we feel like, whoo, we got a deal. I mean, that's how times have changed in 4 years. Um, but now that everything's kind of coming out, and you see the piling on, listen, the one thing I don't want to hear, Tommy, is, well, he wasn't a nice guy. Who cares? You think Bear Bryant was a nice guy?
No, not at
I
all.
mean, like the young Skip Bertman wasn't a nice guy. Nick Saban's never been a nice guy. Like, who cares? Oh, he didn't talk to me. Oh, listen, the old days of football coach, not so much now with the new rules and stuff, but the old days of a football coach that were not that long ago, they had 150 dudes on that football team. 50 plus walk-ons, okay? That were basically practice dummies, tackling dummies. You know what I mean? They were never going to play. They were only going to play if there was catastrophic injuries and all, or we're up 70-0 against Ball State on the third game of the year and let them get in there for a kickoff, run down the field with a minute to go in the game. So my point is that, like, the idea that it's required that the head coach be this nice guy and he cares so deeply for his players. Look, that's gravy if you find somebody like that. If you get that guy, that grandpa figure, that Joe Pa, whatever that we like to think. I mean, minus the overlooking the child thing. But like, so I don't want to hear it about, well, he wasn't warm and fuzzy and he yelled at his players on the sideline. So do a lot of coaches. The difference is that it bothered us because we didn't win. If LSU would have beaten Texas A&M 50-18, he could have yelled and grabbed Garrett Nussmeier by the face mask and we'd have said, hey, get him, BK. Love that guy. But because you lose, we have an issue with him yelling at players. So, like, forget all that. Now, a guy getting shot, a guy getting killed, a guy, a guy killing himself, a guy getting brain damage, and we're hearing stories about him not being the most comforting. Maybe he didn't go see the kid, maybe he didn't talk to the parents. There's two sides to every story, all that kind of stuff. But if, like, those kind of things, yes, I agree. Those are oogie. You would think that Brian Kelly would be there. We'd like to envision this picture of him down in Thibodeau with the Love fam, just all, but it didn't happen. And that's not the kind of guy he is. Fine. You want to pile on him for that? Fine. But the pile on him because being a jerk or yelling at players or being tough or not knowing who player 149's middle name was, I don't want to hear about all that.
Well, here's the thing, right? If you win, None of that other stuff matters. Okay. And here's the perfect
Exactly.
example. When Bill Belichick was winning Super Bowls, everybody thought his press conferences were funny when he would say, "Oh, next question. We're just getting ready for the next game." Everybody thought that was kind of comical. Well, he was hanging Super Bowl trophies on the wall. Okay. And then when that wasn't working no more, then he was a grumpy old man that didn't like the cut off sweatshirt. They found all the things to come out because he wasn't winning anymore. And it was obvious the Patriots had their window had closed to win Super Bowls. Well, it's the same thing. Saban, not the friendliest, nicest guy in the world, never has been, never will be. I got a friend of mine that worked for him, as you know, two different times for 3 years. And when he went back, I could say this now, I guess. I'd heard he was going to go back to Bama after a stint in the NFL, come back down there. And he told me something like, "No way! If Nick Saban calls you, you go do it. You go do the interview." Well, then all of a sudden he re-signed and he went back to Bama. And his text to me was, I texted him, "I can't believe you're going back to Bama." He goes, "I'm going back to prison." That's what he said. Because working for Saban was viewed as prison. That's a guy that worked for Saban for 6 years, two different 3 year stints. Still a friend of mine to this day. And so again, when you're winning, all the other stuff is way down the list. When you're not winning or things aren't going right, or you're getting beat by Vanderbilt, you're getting blown out by A&M in Baton Rouge, now everything comes out. So you turn the page and you leave it up to LSU. Doesn't have a president. I think they got 4 finalists now, I read. A lot of people don't know if Woodward's going to survive and is he going to be the one that picks the coach. You got the involvement by Governor Landry, which I don't know about all that. I don't know how involved it is or whatever. I heard there was a meeting at the governor's mansion, but sometimes you want to meet when nobody knows you're meeting. You can't go in the lounge at the airport like Joe Dean
TK,
used to
the
do.
board of supervisors for LSU, who inevitably at the end of the day has to approve all the hires. So they also usually approve the fires. The board of supervisors serve at the pleasure of the governor, right? They're selected by the governor. Now it's a term, and we know that at least six, I believe, of the almost about half of the board of supervisors that are there currently were handpicked by Landry, and then the others, their term ends this year, and then the rest will be handpicked by Landry. So regardless of whether we feel comfortable with the governor being involved, and being that you have an interim president at LSU, that's a big reason why the governor's involved. But all governors have had say, right, and been involved in conversations. Whether it be Edwards when LSU wasn't sure if they wanted to get rid of, if they were willing to do uh, uh, the Les Miles stuff and all that uh, because they were needing money from the state. And so the governor's in the loop. Whether the governor signs off on it, whether the governor's always in the loop in these high end decisions. And next to the governor, the coach at LSU is probably the highest state official, there is. But regardless, with an interim president right now, with a board of supervisors that serves at the pleasure of the governor, is selected by the governor. The governor's always going to be involved in some kind of whenever you're making that transition. Let me say this: the whole thing. I'll tell you one quick story about Skip Burtman. When you talk about BK doesn't know their name or BK's not nice to all the players. My freshman year at LSU, I was about a month into this to playing at LSU freshman fall, and the LSU baseball has the legendary coaches committee, which they still do to this day. You can pay a couple $100 a year. You can join the coaches committee about once a month, maybe 3 times in the fall and 3 times in the spring, something like that. They have a monthly meeting. They serve you food. You get to hear from the coach. Usually the coach brings players and makes introductions, gives you a little inside info. And at the time, that booster club was really needed by Coach Bird because it generated funds that went into a pot that basically he controlled to kind of do what he wanted with. If he needed a copy machine, he didn't have to ask across the street, wait for 3 bids, take 6 months. He could just go get a copy machine, right? If he needed a new batting machine, he could just go buy one with the funds from the coaches committee. He didn't have to get a permission and all that. Well, Coach Bertman introduces me. He brought over some freshmen to speak to the coaches committee, and he introduced me as, "Hey, this guy's going to be a great one here. This left-handed pitcher from Menard, Louisiana. Please welcome Randy Rance." Okay, first off, Menard is no such city. All right, it's where I went to high school in Alexandria, Holy Savior Menard. And my name's Ronnie, not Randy. Okay, I didn't call my parents and go, "Oh, Coach Bergman doesn't know my name. He didn't, he didn't talk to me. He insulted me." I mean, come on, which is all the nana boo boo crap we're hearing about Brian Kelly right now. So get over yourself. All right, we move on. The New Orleans Saints, Tommy. Tyler Shuck is going to be your quarterback. Spencer, I didn't think Spencer Rattler played that poorly. The problem was, his completion percentage was better than Shuck. The problem is he threw for more yards than Shuck in his half of play. The problem is that Spencer Rattler has a problem that he's had all his life, going back to high school and college. He doesn't protect the football. He turns the ball over. He's a gambler with his throws. He's a little guy with little hands, and he fumbles, and that's why he's being benched, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And, Coach Kellen Moore made the decision. I guess you reached that point, what, 1-7? By the way, too, Gail Benson's two teams are combined 1-10, Pelicans and Saints. So whatever. But I guess Kellen Moore reached the decision. Okay, that little 2% of him that thought maybe we can get hot, he finally realized not going to get hot. Let's see what we have with Tyler Shuck. And if the Saints go 3-and-out or Shuck throws a pick six on the first possession, he's going back out there. Okay, they're going to give this guy the keys and let him play a game. Now, it's going to be on the road against the Rams, who are basically a 2-touchdown favorite. So don't expect a lot. If he does some good things, that'll be good in the big picture. But I think Kellen Moore just finally said, okay, we got to see what we got with Tyler Shuck. And then if this guy can't do it in 3, 4, 5 games or more, then they realize they got to address that either, with a trade, a free agency. I don't know if there's a guy in the draft that could come in and start next September. But, Kellen Moore's got to figure it out. He's the coach.
Speaking of the Saints this weekend, 13.5-point dog on the road at the Rams. I mean, 13.5 is a lot of points in the NFL. I mean, Tommy, I don't know what the equivalent to college football that would be, but
24.
24, 28, I mean, maybe a four touchdown dog, something like that. But look, the good news is that I have no expectation that Tyler Shuck is going to be lightning in the bottle in year one and turn things around, and the Saints are all of a sudden going to win a bunch of games. So keep trugging along that 2-3 win mark, baby. But I'm glad they are playing Tyler Shuck because, look, I mean, at the end of the day, I think you know what you have in Spencer Rattler. I mean, you've seen him for almost a full season now, combined from last year to this year. Did he improve from last year to this year? Slightly. But I think we can say Spencer Rattler is a good backup quarterback. It would be a solid backup quarterback in the NFL. I wouldn't have any problem with Spencer Rattler maybe being my backup. You'd like to have better, but you can live with it if Spencer Rattler's your backup, which probably is about the ceiling for a fifth rounder, right? But as far as Tyler Shuck is concerned, you put a second rounder into him. So now let's go see if he has what it takes, shows that improvement, that leadership, the maturity, etc. If he has what it takes for you to go into the offseason with a top 5 pick for sure and not use it on a quarterback, I mean, that's what your evaluation period is between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, you got to see what you got with him, and you got to give him time. It can't be one game, can't be two. Put it on the road, put it at home. And this whole thing with Rattler, I thought he played okay in spot. Ronnie, it's just like we were talking about when the coach is winning, you don't notice the other stuff. Well, when Rattler's 1-13, wherever he is as a starter, okay, he's not too tall. He's not tall enough. He doesn't protect the ball. His hands a little. You know what? If he was winning games, none of that would come out. So you become an easy target when the bottom line is you're not getting wins, which is what NFL teams are supposed to win games. College teams are supposed to win games. And when you're not, then the other stuff surfaces. So that's what it is. And I agree with you. I don't think Rattler's the answer. I don't think he's a guy that leads into an NFC South title and a playoff run one day. I just don't see it. He's got some good qualities, but he ain't the guy, in my opinion, at this point in time.
Um, the yeah, I found it interesting. You know, as we look around the NFL, Tommy, and you look around at what's going on, and um, I don't know that there is a quarterback out there, in my opinion, for the New Orleans Saints to target in the offseason that's going to be a free agent, right? Like I almost feel like if Tyler Shuck does not work out over the remainder of the year, they're going to probably use that first round draft pick on a quarterback, and that will have meant you now had three drafts in a row where you burned the draft picks on a QB, and that's not something the Saints normally do, and it's definitely not something that the New Orleans Saints, you're basically throwing three quarterbacks against the wall, hoping for something to stick. And so let's fingers crossed if you're a Saints fan, because if you have to waste another pick, a top five pick on a quarterback, you're pushing and delaying the Saints recovery process. Because again, they're not going to have the money this year. There's still another year or so in the cycle. You're not going to have the money this year to go make a giant splash, anything. So you're going to have to build through the draft, and that means might be betting under 5.5 wins next year, TK.
Well, and there's no whoever you draft, there's no guarantee it works. I don't care who it
Right.
is.
I mean, it
Okay,
doesn't matter if you have the
I don't.
first pick in the draft. Look at Peyton Manning. Look at all the history of quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, and I'm saying you could have like 20 people say this is the guy. Well, it might not be the guy. It's a
Well, and it
crapshoot.
may take a year or two for that guy to
Right.
be the guy. You know what I mean? So, let's talk World Series.
Well,
What a crazy last couple of days. You had the greatest World Series game arguably ever played on Monday, 18 innings. Otani went 4 for 4 with two homers and walked five times, including five walks in a row. Like uh, that is insane. That would be insane if it happened in 12-year-old Bambino Babe Ruth baseball. But for it to happen in the Major League World Series, I mean, there is no argument, Tommy, that this guy is the greatest baseball player ever to live.
I agree with that. And I mean what he does, and don't forget he steals bases. I mean what he does is remarkable, and the respect. The other team intentionally walk him five times. Four were literally go to run to first. One time the pitcher just nibbled way outside, hoping he would chase. So no, it's amazing. And he threw last night, and he got the loss. He gave up some hits, and Guerrero hit the bomb, but he hung up a breaking ball up and
Well, he threw for
basically
six innings, Tommy. He made a mistake, gave up a two-run homer. He was losing 2-1 going into the seventh. Now, this guy had nine at bats, played 18 innings the inning before. Coming off surgery and all from a year ago. You're in the World Series. It's 2-1 going into the seventh. Now, I have no problem with them starting him in the seventh because you're losing, right? You're losing. Your bullpen just got extended. Everybody threw the night before. I get that. But when you get to the seventh down a run and you got to, and in the seventh inning in this day and age is like the 10th, 20 years ago, right? When you get to the seventh inning, the second he gives a leadoff hit,
first
that's
guy
it.
on. Yeah, yeah.
Tip your cap. He gets the ovation. He ends up probably losing the game 2-1, 3-1 because you bring in a fresh arm. That run might not score, but the fact that they allowed him to stay out there to then give up a double before they pulled him. So then those two runs end up scoring, and he gives up four earned runs, and his line looks six innings, four earned runs. That was bad management. I thought he should have either never thrown a pitch in the seventh or been hooked the minute the leadoff batter got on.
I agree. Now, part of it is the bullpen got spent the night before. By
Mhm.
the way, Ronnie, Monday night, you ready for this? I don't know if you saw this. 609 pitches Monday night in the 18 inning game. How'd you like to be the plate umpire and have to call
Oof.
609 pitches of 100 miles an hour, stuff moving
By,
up,
by the
down,
by
in
the
and
way,
out?
Tommy, did you watch that game?
I fell asleep about the 15th, and I
Okay.
was fighting it. I was fighting it, trying to stay awake. And then I remember waking up, and I could tell I left the TV on, It wasn't on baseball, so I looked at the phone and saw what happened. So I didn't see the Freeman bomb, and I didn't see the 16, 17,
Okay,
18.
but if you watch 15 innings, you saw how terrible the home plate umpire was.
Well, last night he missed, first at batter, he got two pitches completely wrong. He called a ball down low breaking ball a strike, and then he called a ball that should have been a strike a ball, and he missed two in a row on the opening hitter last night. I want to say.
I cannot wait till next year. Remember, next year they're going to have the challenge rule where you're going to have two challenges per game. The hitter has to challenge, or the pitcher has to challenge, and it has to be done, right after the pitch is thrown. You can't look into the dugout and then they watch the video and then they give you the challenge. You have to, without any help from any of the teammates or coaches, challenge. And because that's going to be a game changer. It's going to, not only does the box and replay expose umpires now, and they have all the technology. We watch all the stuff on social media that says this, shows which umpires are the worst and how many inches they missed by and all that kind of stuff. But now you're going to be able to challenge and sort of embarrass these umpires,
Well,
instantaneous. And look, it's not about embarrassing umpires, it's about getting it right. But some of these cats are going to get exposed way more than others.
Well, but they've been exposing them, Ronnie, with plays on the bases last night. When Jimenez dove back in at first, he was safe and he was called out. Now they correctly overturned it. So you could say, well, okay, that base hump who was about 3.5 feet away from the call, he was right on it, got it wrong. I mean, they're humans. They're going to get stuff wrong, but that's why you have replay. And speaking of that, the big push right now by Tony Dungy's made a big thing about what I've said for 10 years. The words that play is not reviewable should not exist because there was a big problem again with the tush push. By the way, tush push is not going to be in football next year because they can't officiate it. Okay, and they had some egregious
Well, they
errors
stopped. They supposedly said the forward momentum was stopped. They
or
blew the
forward
whistle.
progress was stopped.
I mean, first off, like let's just do like rugby, Tommy.
Well,
Until the ball touches the ground, it's not over.
well, in that Saints game, when the guy picked up the ball and ran it in for Tampa, they said a whistle was blown. No microphones. Nobody has the whistle on audio. Okay. And here's the other telltale: more than whether you had the 22 players on the field didn't stop. Okay. When those guys are trained their life. When they hear the whistle, you either got one more second or you stop. Nobody reacted like as if you've seen other times the whistle blows, you can tell the player stops or he stops his activity. So, but anyway, going back to the balls and strikes, it's going to be some controversy, but I mean, they got to do it because there's so much money involved, contracts for players, contracts for managers and coaches, and they're out there to win. Players are getting paid if they have a batting average. They get called out like on that pitch to Lucas last night that was, 6 inches below the strike zone was called a strike. That's affecting that guy's ability to make a living because he can't. He's not going to swing at that. He's a pro. He knows that's a ball, and then for it to get called strike and not be able to reverse it, that's not right.
All right, TK. We move on. Some news out of the Texas Collegiate League. You see me rocking my Lake Charles Gumbo Gators gear. The TCL, the Texas Collegiate League, announced yesterday adding two more teams to the league, which is exciting. It strengthens the league. It adds some variety for the fans. It's exciting for the players. But Abilene, Texas, and Sherman, Texas, will be joining our league, leaving a rival league, coming to our league. And so excited about that. The league now expanding from 6 to 8 teams. Schedule should be coming out right about the week before Thanksgiving. And then season tickets will actually go on sale Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. But we'll start the season the Tuesday after the regionals, the NCAA regionals. So the Tuesday after LSU hopefully punches their ticket to the Supers is when the first week will begin. We'll play 8 straight weeks, Tuesday through Sunday each week with Mondays off for a total of 48 games, 24 at home, 24 on the road. Same schedule as in the past. But everyone's excited, Tommy, other than my checkbook because we'll be writing bigger bus trip expenses going to Abilene and Sherman, but excited for the league. It's good news, and a lot of things in the work for 27. There's a lot of interest to potentially add two more franchises in 2027 to the league to get to 10. So that could be that'll be something to look forward to, maybe potentially one this time next year.
No, I'm excited about it. I mean, as everybody knows, that you called me the day you bought the Rougarou and said, "Hey, I bought a baseball team," and you told me you're going to be involved. Don't know that day you didn't know what role, but I would be involved, and I've been involved since day one, and gotten to know other people in the front offices and with the other teams in the league, other owners I've gotten to know. So I'm excited about Abilene and Sherman coming into the Texas Collegiate League. It makes the league bigger, better, stronger. And other than the logistical things of Abilene, Texas, and Sherman, Texas, but no, I think it's exciting. And from what I read, both of these teams have been good franchises, good baseball teams with good results. So it's only going to make the league stronger as we go forward. And I, with you and everybody that's had anything to do with the Rougarou over the years have done, it really branded it in Baton Rouge in 4 years. And winning a title certainly helped last summer. But the fact that it's now kind of a part of the community, people know what the Rougarou. That first year or two, Rougarou, what's that? A travel baseball team? There is a travel team, but now with what you've done in the marketing and speaking and the St. Patrick's Day parade and everything else that the Rougarou, Roo, the mascot, goes to, it's all mattered a lot and has led to where we're at now with the Texas Collegiate League. And I just can't wait till next summer. Now, you answered a question that two people asked me. Does that mean there's going to be more than 48 games? And I said, no, I don't think so. But now you cleared it up. And so it's 48, 24 at home, 24 at the road. It's jam-packed in there. And it's going to be
Yeah, it
exciting
won't
next
be
summer.
it won't be a balanced schedule, and what I mean by that is teams that are closer to you in location, you'll play more than teams that are further away. You have to play
But
everybody in the
but
league
you
at
will
least
play
four.
everybody,
You
right?
have to play everyone in the league at least 4 times, and you can't play anyone more than 12 times. Last year we played. There were two divisions, Texas and Louisiana. We played Lake Charles. They're talking about the Rougarou. Played Lake Charles and the Acadiana Cane Cutters 12 times each, 6 at home, 6 on the road, because we played 2-game series. So chances are at least one of those two teams will play at least 12 times. But you can play any team max of 12 times, but you have to play them a minimum amount of 4. So think about it from a standpoint of the Southeastern Conference now. There are no divisions. There's no East and West in the SEC. Everybody's lumped together. You don't play some teams, you play other teams. And so some guys have an easier schedule than others, depending on how tough the teams are. It'll be just like that in the sense that the schedules won't be balanced. Some schedules will will end up playing out harder or easier than others based on the quality of the opponents. But everyone will play each other at least 4 times.
So the divisions are going away.
Correct.
Yeah, so there won't be a Louisiana division and a Texas division. Okay, and we'll clearly convey all this in the spring to people as we lead up to the summer of 26. So,
Yeah, you have
but
eight
no,
teams, and you have 8 teams, and the top 2 teams that finish top 2 in the overall at the end of the first half of play, at the end of June, will be in the playoffs, and then the next 2 teams that
so there'll be a
win the
first half,
second
second
half, or
half,
yep,
which is
just like
common
it
in
was
my
prior
in
to last 2
and
years.
and that's very common in minor league baseball,
Hmm.
all levels, as a first half, second half, to create interest, and you don't have that team that struggles, and then why play the second half of the season? They got no shot. Well, they do have a shot, and rosters are fluid in the Texas Collegiate League, all summer leagues. Rosters change around a little bit. That's the nature of the beast. So I'm glad there's going to be a first half, second half, even though they won't be divisions.
Yeah, so half the teams in the league will make that playoffs, but exciting. And oh, by the way, we have a new pitching coach that we'll announce on Thursday. We'll have that for you tomorrow on social media that we'll be putting out there. So our staff will be complete tomorrow, and we'll announce that. We know Mike Forbes signed a multi-year contract to be the head coach, the Walker High School coach currently. And we know Tim Beatty will be back as an assistant, the Doyle High School coach. but we'll be naming the pitching coach tomorrow. So excited to
Well,
make that announcement. And then we'll be full bore ahead recruiting players and signing players.
Ronnie, I've made two requests many years ago. I want to know if they are going to be finally done. Are we going to have air conditioning in the press box?
No
And are we putting
elevator.
an elevator in at Goldsby Field? Because
Yeah.
I requested that first summer, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
yeah,
I think Tommy, you're still going
those
to
are
have
still
to
on the
make the
list.
walk up the steps.
Those are still on the to be determined list,
That's
right?
right. That's right. We get you a little rope harness or something. Maybe we can, put you in a bucket and
No, I'm good.
I'll pull the
When
rope.
I got the new knees. That first
There
year
you
was tough for me to get up there. Now I'm good.
go. All right. Well, TK is 3-0 on the season, betting against the Pelicans. And the Pelicans find themselves a 13.5-point dog against the Nuggets. That's a lot of points, TK. So tonight's going to be a challenge,
I
even though
got 12 and a
obviously the
half. No,
Pelicans will lose.
I got it at 12 and a half.
Okay. There you go. There you go.
Oh, whatever, but 12 and a half, first game of a 3-game road trip for the Pelicans. Don't expect much, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. It's going to be brutal. All right, TK, tell us about Tremonti's as we get out of here.
Well, today is Wednesday, so that's the hamburger special. They do it every Wednesday, a burger and fries for $6.99. You can get it here. You can get it to go. You can come in and eat here at one of the tables. And, of course, Tremonti's getting ready for the Thanksgiving turkeys. It's a tradition around here. You can order online. They'll start taking turkey orders this Saturday, November 1. Fried, smoked, rotisserie, all the side dishes, the trimmings, everything you need. You can do it right here at Tremonti's. And recently started the order online for pickup or delivery, whether you want to get that burger special for lunch or you need a couple of steaks or you want to get a couple of party platters for something going on at the house. Order online, tremontis.com. Tremontis.com. Do check that out. Hey, don't forget Sports Shorts Radio. This Saturday we'll be at Fat Daddy's in Plaquemine. Great sandwiches there. Don't forget Baton Rouge, Lafayette, Lake Charles on the radio, 10 a.m. to 12 noon this Saturday. Don't forget to like and share this show, no matter whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X. It helps us all out. If you like and share this show, please do that. On behalf of Ronnie Rance, I'm Tommy Christ saying